Good evening and welcome to the 6 p.m. City Council meeting for Tuesday, May 25th, 2021. Let the roll call reflect that all council members are present, with the exception of Councilmember Nadolski, who is asked to be excused this evening. To begin, we'll have a Pledge of Allegiance offered by Vice Chair White.
Thank you. Please rise if you are able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair White. Now I would ask all who are joining us tonight to join with us in a moment of silence. Thank you. First up is the approval of minutes. First is the special meeting of February 9th, 2021. Councilmember Stevens.
Yes, Chair, they're correct. I'm sorry.
Thank you. And next is the closed executive session of February 9th, 2021. Councilmember Lopez.
Yes, Chair, the minutes are correct, and I move that we approve the minutes.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Lopez to approve the minutes and a second by Councilmember Chaburka. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Next up, we have a public hearing continued from last week for the honorary street name designation. First up, we have Greg Montgomery here to present, and then we'll hear from Glenn Symes also.
Thank you, Chair Blair and members of the council. As you mentioned, this is a public hearing considering a petition that has been filed with the city for an honorary street name. And I'm going to give you the Planning Commission, what happened on that part, and then Glenn will pick up from there that once we had the work session with the council, the activities that have taken place since then. So hopefully, as we go through this, we'll be able to answer some of the questions you may have. And I just want to start off with the background discussion of street names in themselves. What the street names accomplish? Well, basically, they're means of identifying a location. And they're done either by a name, a coordinate number. Sometimes those names also, with maybe some numbers, may show ownership of the street. Is it a state road like US or a federal road, US 89? Locally, we call it Washington Boulevard, but in other communities, it's Main Street in Logan, or another street name in other cities that US 89 goes through. State routes, State Route 39, we call it 12th Street. But they talk about who has jurisdiction over it in some of the numbering systems. And so you can have a same street identified in many different ways. But for all the purposes we're concerned about, it's what do we locally call that? Washington Boulevard, 12th Street. And then you have streets that maybe have three. State Route 53. It's also 24th Street. It also has an honorary name of Martin Luther King. So the names and the things that are attached to the street are to give us ideas of location, coordination, and sense of community. Now, those street names take place the very first development. Generally, they identify a feature along the route or a destination, or typically, as developers developed properties, they install the streets and they also name the streets. And the city just coordinates to make sure that those streets don't have close enough names that they become confusing. Another thing that happens to the streets sometimes is political processes. Ogden went through a significant street name change back in 1889 to the present name system and the number system we have today. sometimes we have to make changes to streets because they create some confusion. The service providers cannot adequately get to the properties. For example, response to medical. We had a street up in the Forest Green area called Oakcrest. Well, it was a horseshoe, and you could have even numbers on Oakcrest but not be next to each other because of the way the horseshoe shaped. So back in 2012, to respond to emergency providers, Oakcrest got named Oakcrest and then Aspen Drive at the apex of that horseshoe. So sometimes we do change names of streets that physically impact everybody. But other ways, when we talk about honorary names, they're not affecting the people who live on the street in terms of services. They don't have to change their mailing address. They don't have to change other things. The service providers don't have to re-identify things because an honorary name is just something that's a secondary thing that is used but not officially as an address. In the city process, we have one of two ways honorary names take place. Either city initiated, or it can be by a petition of an owner of property along that street. So another person cannot say, well, I want to name this street this. You have to live on that street to file a petition to ask for that honorary street name. As part of that petition, you have to state what's your public purpose of that name. We notice the owners along that and the occupants along that street, the proposed honorary name. And then we also notify the service providers to make sure they don't have any concerns about that honorary name. Well, in this case, we did have a filed petition back in July of 2020. That petition was signed by 8 individuals who live along that section of 2nd Street. Now I should clarify, 8 individuals signed, but they lived on 8 individual lots. And then 3 additional signatures were along the east side of Wall Avenue, still on 2nd Street. So the city received that petition, and in that petition, they identified the public purpose of why they wanted to look at an honorary street name. Remember back in 1890, I told you the city went through a major change of all the street names. Well, one of those changes was what was then called Bingham Fort Lane. So prior to 1890, what we now call 2nd Street was titled Bingham Fort Lane. There's this newspaper article in 1884 addressed an action requested to the city to take place along Bingham Fort Lane. So one of the things the petition is asking for is saying this was a historic name of the street. It was what the street was called, and would like to bring it back to make an honorary name, because in addition to identifying that destination of what that was the street name prior to 1890, it also had context to earlier development in that area in 1850, the Bingham Fort. And this map shows you that general location of Bingham Fort, 2nd and Wall. And that the neighbors in that area have been trying in many different ways to honor the history of that area with some of the buildings that they've put on the local register, some of the markers and preservation of areas to, again, help keep the context of how this area developed. Now, when the staff reviewed this and we went to the Planning Commission with it, we felt that it would be appropriate to more address the honorary name where the fort area was, not the full length of 2nd Street from Washington to the railroad tracks, but keep it basically from Century Drive to Wall Avenue with an honorary name. And so, as the Planning Commission discussed it, that is what the change from the original application was, to reduce the length of it to the area in red rather than the area in yellow, which was the applicant's original request. We also went to the service providers. Their basic comment was honorary names don't create us a problem in trying to get to emergency services. And we'll still always use the Second Street identification as our coordinates and the east or west designation to find a property address. So the Planning Commission, as they reviewed this petition in this context, had recommended to the City Council at 7-0 to approve the honorary name, subject to the section being limited in size from North Century Drive to Wall Avenue, and that be the conditions of their recommendation of approval to the council. Now, Glenn will take it from here, unless you have any questions of me before Glenn takes the next part.
I have a question, Chair.
Yes, please.
I'm just running, Greg, and you don't have to answer it completely here, but I'm curious about the 1889. So you said there was a significant street name changing event that happened where a lot of streets were renamed.
Yes.
What was that about?
So this was when Mayor Kiesel was elected as a Libertarian candidate and won the election. And this is all part of the process, what they call the Americanization of Ogden. So the streets all got named to the presidential names, and the numbered streets went from 5th Street to 25th Street. And so the coordinates then shifted to the north towards 2nd Street. Well, 2nd became 2nd Street rather than being a Fort Lane. And so all the coordinates then started going from 5 Points area, heading south or heading north, rather than the block that was 1st Street, which is now 21st Street. So there was a shift both in the north-south coordinates being numerical number changes, and then the east-west changing names to presidential names rather than some of the earlier names that were either Washington was Main Street, Adams was Spring Street, you had Young Street, you had Joseph Street, you had Heber Street. So it's changing all those names.
Fascinating. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I was having a discussion where the presidential names came. I mean, I know where they came from, but I didn't understand that's what caused it. That's really interesting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Greg. I will take it from here, and can everybody see that okay?
Yes.
Okay. So I will review what the council did once it was through the Planning Commission and transmitted to the council office. So after that, after it was transmitted, the council did take a look at this petition in November of 2020. Shortly thereafter, the council wanted to get some input from the Diversity Commission. So a letter was sent to the Diversity Commission requesting that they review the proposal and provide a recommendation. The Diversity Commission did take a look at that in November and December, and they did discuss the proposal with members of the public and with a couple of other folks who have a unique perspective on the proposal. That included Darren Perry and James Singer, both of whom received invitations to this meeting. The Diversity Commission voted in December and voted to recommend denial 9-1 of the proposal. There's a letter that is in your packet material that they did send to the council that detailed background information and reasons for their recommendation. So I would refer you to that to get a little bit more context and background on their recommendation. And the commission's letter was accompanied by a letter from Mr. Singer providing some additional context on the concerns that were expressed by the commission. So after that, the council did take a look at this recommendation again, the commission's recommendation and the proposal again in February of this year. At the time, council members weren't comfortable with the proposal as it was presented. So the council allowed the petitioner some additional time to work with the community to see if they could come up with an alternative that might help address some of the concerns that were expressed. So Anna Keogh, the petitioner, did in fact work with Mr. Perry to develop an alternative name, a couple of alternative names actually. This is the one that was put forward. and it is Bingham Fort Chief Little Soldier Lane. And there is some additional information in your packet that was submitted that provides some background on Chief Little Soldier, who he was and how he would be honored with this. And as Greg mentioned, the original proposal was for a larger section from the railroad tracks to Washington Boulevard. However, based on the Planning Commission's recommendation, the space is narrowed to Century Drive to Wall Avenue. The petitioner has indicated that she is okay with that change, so that's how the ordinance is written for your consideration. So the council took a look at this alternative toward the end of April, just about a month ago in a work session. And at that time, council members felt that the proposal could move to the next step, which would include the public hearing and any final consideration, which is what's on the agenda for this evening. And as we talked about just very briefly in the work session, the council has received comments both in support of and some in opposition to the proposal. Any comments that we received in the council office through Thursday of last week were included in the packet material, so that information is there. There have been a couple of emails that we've received since then and one additional voicemail. And the two written comments were in support. The one voicemail was in opposition, citing some possible confusion with the name change. So this is kind of a rough proof of what the sign might look like, as we've talked about in the work sessions. The name is fairly long, and so when it gets to actual printing, the LN on the end of that may be taken off for legibility and just sizing. So, but this is kind of a general idea of what the sign might look like, how it would be presented. And then, as Greg mentioned, you can see the difference there with what was proposed on my map here in the blue dashed line versus the red, which is what is recommended by the Planning Commission. So with that, I'll take any questions that you have for me with anything that the council has worked on.
Does anyone have any questions for Glenn? Not seeing any. I believe we have the petitioner here also. We'd like to allow her a chance to speak. Anna, are you there?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
All right, can you see me?
No.
Okay, I don't know how to change that. All right, anyway, I'd just like to thank the planning staff because I think their suggestion to shorten the honorary road name so that it aligns more closely with the fort's historic location is a really good idea. We actually like that better than the whole length of the road. Also, I wanted to thank the City Council for involving the Diversity Committee because by adding the name of Chief Little Soldier to Bingham Fort, we've improved and strengthened our effort to put forward more of the history of 2nd Street. It's just deeper and better by adding Chief Little Soldier. And I just want you to know that Chief Little Soldier and the Shoshone Indians have always been part of the history on our website of the history of 2nd Street. The problem is that only some interested persons actually read the website, but everyone that drives on this busy street would read the street signs and become aware of the historic presence of Chief Little Soldier and the presence of Bingham Fort. And perhaps their curiosity will lead them to learn more about it. So if approved, we feel that this would reach a much wider span of the public than the website does. It will pay tribute to the past and help identify a part of our neighborhoods cultural uniqueness. Now, I just want to say already there are good side effects to the effort to bring the Shoshone history on 2nd Street forward to the public. I'll just ask you a question. Did you know that the Bingham Stone Farm was a Native American camping ground? Probably not, unless you read the history of our farm on the website. But we thought of a quick way to bring that information forward to the public, and we're just ready to install a sign on our farm fence next to the name of the farm, and this sign will say Northwest Band of Shoshone Nation Camping Ground. And I have the sign here to show you, but I don't know how to turn my visual on. I don't know. Is there a way to do that?
Anna, it appears that your video is on, but it's possible that your camera, is there a slider in front of your camera that obstructs the view? Because that could be in the way, because we see that your video is on, but it's completely black.
Yeah, I don't know how to turn it on. I don't see a slider. I see the camera up there. Well, anyway, I'm really sorry that I can't. I've got the sign right here to show you, and I can email you a copy of it. I was going to show it to you, but it's 24 inches long. It's green with white letters, and it says Northwest Band of Shoshone Nation Camping Ground. So we're really excited to put the sign up, and we hope that you'll approve the honorary road name, because then West 2nd Street would have 2 Shoshone signs. One would be the public sign that says Chief Little Soldier, and one would be a private sign on our fence that would say Northwest Band of Shoshone Nation Camping Grounds. And we just feel like both those signs would really bring some Shoshone awareness forward to the public, and very quickly, because there's so much traffic going up and down this street. Also this summer, we hope to have Darren Perry speak about Shoshone culture in a public event on the farm. And when that is set up, we'll invite all the city council to it. So this effort for honorary signage has participated. We thank you for your consideration tonight, and we hope you'll approve our honorary name application for Bingham Fort Chief Little Soldier. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Before we begin and take public comment, are there any questions for Anna at this time?
I just have one suggestion, Chair.
Okay.
Anna, that event with Darren Perry, maybe it would be a nice opportunity to tie it in with Pioneer Days in July. I think that would be more interest to it.
Yes, thank you, thank you. And that was a consideration. Although we thought there were so many activities on Pioneer Day, we were thinking of having it on, it's not set for sure, but we're thinking of having it on the 31st, which would be a week after Pioneer Day. But thank you, because we had mixed feelings about which day to choose. But we'll let you know when we get it selected. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions for Anna?
I have a comment, if you don't mind.
Yep.
Because I have a question too. I just wanted to thank Anna so much for doing this extra outreach and working to improve the sign and the sentiment behind the sign. So I really appreciate that. I'm happy that it feels like it came to a better conclusion. And one thing I was just going to ask, and I've been kind of thinking about this quite a bit and having a lot of conversations in the community about it. I know that it's kind of a lengthy title. I wondered what the conversation had been about taking the fort out versus the lane on the end, because it could be Bingham Little Soldier Lane instead of have the fort in it. Because I know a lot of community members are still concerned about the word fort.
Bingham Little Soldier Lane.
Right, like
that was
the fort instead of the lane on the end for the sides.
Oh. Yeah, I think that would be a good consideration. Let's see, Bingham. Say it again.
Would just be taking the FT out for Fort.
So Bingham, Chief Little Soldier Lane? All right.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to think about it. I think since this, again, you have to go to the website and read, but since this is not a military fort, and since we have stories of friendships that existed, that this was a very peaceful fort, I'd be inclined to want to leave the fort in, but that would be something to consider.
Okay, thank you. I was just curious if that had been considered. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anna, I think the fort would designate it as Bingham Fort. If you just do Bingham, they'll say, why is this called Bingham? I think that the Bingham Fort designates the area and what was actually there. And I think it's a little clearer that way.
Yes, I think so. I think that's right.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you very much, Anna.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, this is a public hearing, so we'll go ahead and accept public input. If we could just have Brandon go ahead and explain how that will work, and then we'll go ahead and take public input on this.
Thank you, Chair Blair. If you would like to participate in this public hearing for this item, you must be joining us via Zoom, and you can participate by using the raise hand feature, which is found at the bottom of your application. So if you wish to participate, raise your hand, and then you'll be called on by Chair Blair, and we can go from there.
Thank you. Okay. Looks like we have a few already. We'll go ahead and begin with a member of our Planning Commission, Jeremy Shinoda. He has his hand raised. Go ahead, Jeremy, the time is now yours.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. On the surface, Jeremy Shinoda, Ogden Diversity Commission. On the surface, this looks like a pretty clean decision. However, the more you dig into it, the more complex it gets. The addition of Chief Little Soldier to Bingham Fort does not ameliorate the controversy. The storytelling has been one-sided, and on behalf of those who have been disenfranchised, I think it's safe to err on the side of being mindful of the problematic symbolism the current naming proposal represents. I have to take issue with the continued use of what many consider a pejorative term used for Native Americans in a lot of the letters. It shows a lack of cultural awareness. It's possible to be reminded of and aware of the history of the area without an honorary street name. Current honorary street names, Martin Luther King Jr. and Cesar Chavez, there's a very high bar for being an honorary street name. Honorary means bestowing honor upon. Please do not bestow honor on a name steeped in controversy. What was through a planning lens, it's clear that the name is appropriate. However, through a diversity lens, we see something quite different. What was lacking up to now was to view this through a different lens. And now you have been equipped with this new view, and you get to decide. Please take into account Mr. Gibney and Mr. Singer's letters in opposition. And in your consideration, you're listening to all parties, not just those in favor of. And in that consideration, I hope you decide not to go through with the naming. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy.
How do I raise my hand?
Okay. I lost my list. Sorry. Okay. Next up, we have Tammy Krieger. Go ahead, Tammy. The time is now yours.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for having a public hearing. Jeremy, thank you so much for your consideration and voice in opposition, but I am a proponent and encourage you all to vote yay for the honorary road name. And I know that part of what's occurring in our society in America countrywide is that there is a lot of opposing views in regards to honorary road names. I looked at some of it earlier when I wrote my email on Sunday to the city council. And part of the beauty of America is that there have been many paths that brought us all to this present day and time. Some of us descended from indigenous people. Some of us descended from enslaved people. Others from immigrants from every part of the world. I'm half Chinese, so the railroad that was built by the Chinese people is a significant acknowledgement to me. Even though I was raised, for lack of a better way to say it, Caucasian white in America, born in Idaho, raised by a rancher and a full Chinese mom, I liken myself to be American, and I think that those that oppose the recognition of the cultural richness that we have, we have a loss. We're going to lose a significant part of what we have available to us to honor. Street names reflect the cumulative commemorative decisions of municipalities and can be used as indicators for social and cultural uniqueness, which is particularly useful given the scarcity of cultural data at the local level. If we do not continue to recognize the value of what's gone before, in addition to the value of what's occurring now, and if you have read the email that I sent to you as council members, you'll know that my husband and I, we purchased the home next door. So we hope to have a community garden, Bingham Sport Community Garden, that's going to last through the future. So Bingham Sport isn't just something that happened in the past. It's what those of us that are working for currently and what we can bring together when we continue to make Ogden a place of distinction. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tammy. Okay, next up we have Darren Perry. Thank you, Darren, for being here. The time is now yours.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Hey, council, thank you for giving me just a minute to talk to you. Let me just start by saying this. I talked to the diversity group. James Singer is a personal friend of mine, and I love him dearly, and I love his perspective dearly. And I just want you to know that history is complicated. And so Ogden's 170 years, give or take a year, pales in comparison to the amount of time that the Shoshones lived in that area, my people, Northwestern Shoshones. And so I'm certainly cognizant of all views. And, my grandmother would have written the same letter that James Singer wrote to you. I'm just telling you straight. She was an activist. She was a voice, and I love her dearly for that perspective. I'm more of a bridge builder. I'm more of working together with communities to make a difference. And I'll die on that hill. And so the compromise that's before you is great for me. the fact that we would honor Little Soldier, who has so much history in that area and so much oral history from our perspective, it couldn't have been a better person as far as the person that lived in that area. So I'm cognizant of why some people have a problem with it. But look, I mean, in a perfect world, I would want you to start every meeting you have with a land acknowledgement. I mean, you know, there's so many things we can do, and to not do nothing because we may have a problem with one or two things of it. I'm just not that person. I think recognizing both sides and looking at it as Bingham Fort, Little Soldier Lane, I think that's a perfect way for two groups of people who live two different completely lifestyles to at least come together and start a dialogue. Without the name, we're still not being recognized at all. And our history dates back, if not hundreds, thousands of years in that area. So I'm just grateful to be part of this process. I hope you will approve it. And so we can at least start the dialogue and have people say, who is Little Soldier? And on July 31st, I'd like you all come to, and I'll tell you who he was and what kind of a person he was and why the Saints actually liked him a lot. And so I'm honored that you'd give me just a minute, and I'm grateful for Anna and her group and Taylor and Jane and for what they stand for. So thank you very much.
Aaron, thank you very much. Okay. Next up, we have Keith Sato. Sounds like there we go. Next up, we have Heath Sato. Go ahead, Heath. The time is now yours.
Hey guys, Heath Sato, Ogden resident. I'd like to back Jeremy's comments. I greatly appreciate Darren Perry's comments, but I don't feel like I do feel like Little Soldier should get his own lane instead of just being tacked on as an afterthought to this. I don't believe we'll lose anything by not renaming this road tonight. I just wish the Diversity Commission's recommendation would have been given more consideration. There's a reason we have that commission, and I would hope it's there for more than just appearances. And that's basically all I got to say on this. Thanks.
Thanks, Heath. Okay. Next up, we have Angel Castillo. Go ahead, Angel. The time is now yours.
Good evening, Angel Castillo, Ogden resident. I'd like to thank the council for taking time to consider and go back and have and to heed the Diversity Commission's recommendations. I too echo Jeremy Shinoda's comments with regards to honorary street names should honor people. And a fort is a symbol. If you want to honor people and that are specifically a part of that culture, then maybe it should be named after Erastus Bingham, who was a pioneer and a bishop, or even better yet, Arthur Stone, who actually built it. And I think the important thing to think about is that this is going to be for a very long time, that it's going to be out there. This is going to be a lesson that you're going to be exposing children to. And according to Ogden City Landmarks Commission memo, the fort served as a gathering spot for about 600 people, and it was the largest fort in Weber County. And here's the important part of that memo, quote unquote, it was established to protect white settlers from perceived threats from Native Americans. That's what a fort is, protection from something that you perceive as a threat or a foe. And while Arthur Stone and Erastus, or specifically Erastus Bingham, had a relationship that went above and beyond what it was. They were great representatives of what it is to be a good citizen, to be welcoming, to be inclusive. And I've heard the stories that they go with Native Americans and spend Sundays with them, taking them to Mormon dances and learning culture. And that's amazing. But the word fort is kind of problematic. And where, as Jeremy mentioned, you've been given a lens to look at things differently. And while it is not horrifically egregious, you can do better. And I think that you should table it and have a little more consideration to think about words. Words really matter, and names matter, and a fort is not something to be honored. It's a part of our history, and it happened, and none of y'all caused it, and neither did your parents, but we all go back to a history of some not so great informed choices and fear based on racial othering, and you have a chance to tweak this. So please table it, go back and figure out a name that isn't involving fort, and honor Erastus Bingham, and honor Chief Little Soldier. Thank you.
Thank you, Angel. Okay. Next up, we have Sebastian Benitez. Go ahead, Sebastian. The time is now yours. It looks like you need to unmute, Sebastian.
Right now? Okay.
Yep, now we can hear you.
Can you hear me now? Okay, thank you. And this is Sebastian Benitez from Taylor Avenue, close to Montcourt Park. I think if we are going to honor somebody, part of the history, and if the old neighbors, the neighborhood on that street sign it, I think we have to hear these people. That is my principle. If you weren't allowed to change the name, I think you have to, the first thing we have to see if the neighbors living on the street or living on the around, if they sign it and they made the petition, I think that is enough. You know, doesn't matter other people think about it, because the neighbor on that area, if they wanted that one, supposed to respect that one, you know. That is the first point. The second point is, I want to thank to the mayor to hear my neighborhood, and we are so happy to have the sidewalk. Sadly, it's not in my house, but it's for the good for the children, you know. I love my grass, the big grass, everything like that. But
so, Sebastian,
yes,
this is the public hearing for the street renaming.
Yeah, I want you hear then the neighbors. That is the point.
Okay.
If you want to,
yeah, at the end of the meeting, there will be other chances for just regular public comments.
Oh yeah, sorry about it. Yes, sorry, my confusion. Yeah, I want to please pass that one, because if the neighbor around, I hear around 80 neighbors sign it. I don't know exactly the details, but if they ask to change that one, please do it. You know, that is all. Thank you.
Thanks, Sebastian. Okay. I don't see any other hands raised. Oh, I lied. Oh, I lied. We have one other hand raised. I just lost it. Katie Nelson. Go ahead, Katie. The time is now yours.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Yes, I'm Katie Nelson with the Weber County Heritage Foundation. And we have been sort of involved in this project for a couple of years, not necessarily the street naming, but with the trying to encourage public recognition of the history beneath our feet here in Weber County, and especially the area of Bingham's Fort. That is the oldest neighborhood in Weber County. It is, it's as far back as we can go because it was a Shoshone campsite. It's the longest inhabited part of Weber County that eventually became Bingham's Fort for a short time. And then for decades, even a century afterwards, that geographical area was still called Bingham's Fort, just to geographically set it apart. From my perspective as a history professor, history is not about casting people as heroes and villains. It's not about judging the past and deciding who gets to be on the pedestal and who should be erased. I feel like what we could do better is talking about all the stories and all the things that happened, rather than picking and choosing which things get the spotlight. We can create a sense of collective roots. We can create a sense of the history beneath our feet everywhere in Weber County, maybe especially in Bingham's Fort. Tell the hard stories and focus on what really did happen. Geographically, we can mark out the area of Bingham's Fort as a site where something really significant happened. It doesn't mean that we have to celebrate that it happened, but it was a significant part of Weber County history. And if we don't mark it out, if we don't say a fort happened here, isn't that interesting? Why did it happen? What went on inside? And then we dive into the more complex stories about the fact that, yes, this was a fort, but they kept the doors wide open. And in the cold winters, the Shoshone literally camped inside alongside the Mormon inhabitants who were told to fort up. They did it out of obedience, but they didn't have any kind of negative relationship with the Shoshone. It's an interesting story because it's a place of complexity. It's a place of friendship. It's a place where people come together. And that, I think, is what we can celebrate by naming the street Bingham's Fort, to give it a geographical designation of the history beneath our feet.
Thank you, Katie. Okay. There's another hand raised. Help me with the name here. It looks like Jace Reneveld. Go ahead, Jace. The time is now yours.
Thanks. Yes, that was perfectly pronounced there. I appreciate it. Just a random average Ogden citizen living here in the historic district with a great appreciation for Utah history. I wanted to just second and support what I believe her name was Katie said. I think that has a very logical and a fair way of describing the situation. It's nice to focus on local politics instead of trying to bring national themes of political tension and racial appropriations, cultural appropriations, all that stuff. So I just appreciate Katie's comment and think that Ogden's history is incredible, and the people who were here play a big part in shaping the city. And I think Katie said it well. So just to throw that in there as an average Ogden citizen, just listening in from time to time in these city council meetings. So thank you.
Thank you, Jace. Okay, I don't see any other hands raised.
Chair, since I think everybody has probably had a chance to speak, I'm going to make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Thank you.
second it.
Thank you. We have a motion to close the public hearing by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Councilmember Stevens. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That passes. Now I would open it up to either any discussion or comments.
Chair, I'll start off, I guess. I look back historically at, thanks to Anna's research that she has provided to us, along with the Weber County Heritage Foundation, and even the Diversity Commission, who acknowledged that there were two cultures that came together for a common good. And, you know, to use Darren Perry's words, to build a bridge. And I think those bridge building events are few and far between, and I feel pretty warm and fuzzy about that kind of thing, and Anna's efforts in the recent history. You know, she made a proposal and got some more information, went back and reworked it to where she made a better product that also brings two cultures together. The thing that I kind of reject, and I don't reject people's right to say what they think, but I think we need to be doing what we can to build those bridges and not to encourage, and maybe this is going to sound a little funny, this tribalism idea that tends to divide us. You know, these kind of things bring us together, and I'm really pleased the way this has turned out at this point. So that's what I have to say about this. It just seems like a good model for things that we'd like to see happen in the future.
Thank you.
Oh, one other thing, you know, the fort has been kind of a sticking point with some, and I suppose that's legitimate. My view of a fort is that it's not an aggressive kind of a thing. It's more of a defensive kind of a thing that people do. It's not offensive, I don't think, anyway. And we're, in this case, the doors were not shut. I don't know if it even qualified to be a fort, but that's what they called it. So,
thank you, Councilmember Heyer.
Chair, may I make a comment?
Yes, please.
I appreciate everybody's really thoughtful approach to this topic. I guess, you know, my challenge is that I do appreciate the conversations that have been had, you know, around this issue. And for me, it's a little bit bigger, you know, having asked to kind of create a sort of a more intense look at how we have these proposals written now, or the ordinance written, how people can bring these ideas forward. I think for me, that's kind of the biggest challenge, is that there's certain folks that have a little bit more agency, or they have different kinds of thinking around bringing this type of thing forward to say, I want to celebrate this particular element of history. And I, you know, as Darren said, you know, there are other things that we could do in our community to honor the people that were here before others, you know, the Shoshone tribe. We could be doing a land acknowledgement at the beginning of the meetings. We could have a lot more memorabilia or different kinds of community, right? So I guess, you know, I just want to go back to the point that I don't think naming this street is the end all be all to doing all those things. So I really don't feel comfortable putting fort up on a main street of our community at this time in our lives when we do have all this additional information about how it impacts different communities. We've heard that from many people. that have, beyond the Diversity Commission, many other people that have reached out to us as well. So I think, that's just my perspective. And so I'm sure that we'll see the results of that tonight. But just because you own land or because you have certain kinds of power doesn't mean that you get the rights to name things.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Chaburka. Any other comments or?
Chair, just a quick question. My connection is being actually unstable today. I apologize if I missed this. I couldn't find on the packet if what was the what was the recommendation from the Diversity Commission on the second round after the addition of Little Chief was added to the proposal. Do we know that?
So, Chair, I can answer that for Councilmember Lopez. So this did not go back to the Diversity Commission the way it did the first time with the alternative name. You do have some comments expressing concerns from Taylor Knuth, who was the chair at the time that this was brought back. Mr. Shinoda is the chair now. I did forward this to them, so they are aware of that, and I did invite them to attend the meeting so they could participate in the public input. But to your question, it was not sent back to them directly with the new name.
Thank you, Glenn. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification.
Sherry, are you ready for a motion?
Can I make a quick comment before? Sorry, I wanted to.
I'm sorry, I thought everybody was done. So.
I was trying to find my unmute button. Yeah. So I look at this a little bit differently. I think one of the things that I am happy that there are groups of people that have come together. It looks like we're moving forward in a really positive way with history and all of the things that Anna had said, and working with Darren Perry. And I look at it as, and I think actually Angel had said this, but I look at it, it's identifying a community. And Bingham Fort is actually an area. It is a building, or it was a building. It was an area. It's not a person. And I think actually Jeremy brought this up. We're honoring a building, and it could be any building. And so I've talked to many of you about this. It's not about. I don't even know how to use the word, but for me, it's we're honoring the wrong thing, and so I think that there can be other things done from creating identifiable communities. Whether that's marquees or flags or, permanent structures where it says where you're at, where you could have other items on there that gives more of the history, I think is a better use. And it seems even a more historical relevance of understanding and having it be for others to read and understand, as opposed to just a sign. So I think for me, it's more about honoring a person and not honoring an area. So I just wanted to give that as another opportunity for you to think about.
Thank you, Councilmember White. I too would just like to just make a couple quick comments. Like Councilmember Heyer, I applaud all the work that's gone into this. I couldn't be more happy with the way Anna has brought this forward. I thought she did a great job. I've been on the council for a while now, and I've had the opportunity to work and people that live down in that area, and I marvel at their at the pride that they have in where they live. I was walking last weekend and I saw all these people with Ogden Made shirts on, or Ogden, this is Ogden, or whatever it is, and they just love this city. And I applaud Anna for doing that for so many years, even, as the saying goes, before it was cool, I guess you could say. But I do applaud Anna and for her pride in where she lives and where she chooses to live. So I thank her for that, and for her ability to reach out and work with other communities and try to get the best product she can that she can make. And I applaud the Diversity Commission. I applaud Darren Perry for reaching out and for working hand in hand with Anna. And I, like Councilmember Heyer said, some of the things that really stuck out today was I really enjoyed what Mr. Perry had to say about, number one, building bridges, but also number two is starting a dialogue. And I applaud that whether this passes or fails, I'm happy that a dialogue has taken place, and that I know for myself, an education has been gained. I've learned more about this area of our town. Just even tonight, I didn't know it was the oldest part of Weber County. So I do applaud the effort and the time that went into this, and also the knowledge and the information that I've gained because of it. So I do want to thank everybody that had a hand in this, and that's all. I think that's all, Councilmember Heyer, if you're ready.
Okay, well, then I will make a motion that we adopt resolution 2021-7, granting the petition to make an honorary street name designation for the area on 2nd Street for Bingham Fort, Chief Little Soldier Lane.
I second it.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer to adopt proposed resolution 2021-7, and a second by Councilmember Stevens. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Traburka.
No.
Councilmember Heyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez.
No.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Vice Chair White.
No.
Chair Blair.
Yes. But that gives us a 3-3 vote, which means that it did not pass. I'm going to try to explain this, and maybe we can get Janine to explain it better. In order for this to pass, in order for this to become a resolution, it would need 4 votes. And so with only 3 affirmative votes, it does not pass. Is that correct?
That's correct.
It's probably safe to say that the other motion that is the opposite of this won't pass either, but so it's probably not worth having it. But the only possible thing would be to table it a week for the vote until Councilmember Nadolski is back. I don't know what you do about it at that point. You know, it's once everybody has voted, then you kind of have what you have. But
yeah, maybe Janine, if you could give us a little bit of next steps, or possible next steps. I'm not really sure how that.
So I think if you want to bring it back, it would have to be under a motion to reconsider. That means someone who voted against it, so Angela, Luis, or Marcia, would have to make a motion to reconsider.
Does that have to be done tonight?
No, next 2 meetings, I think. Gary, is that right?
Okay, that's what I thought.
Can I change my vote? You can change votes under some circumstances. That was not a tongue-in-cheek thing. I just wanted to know if I could change my vote.
That's above my pay grade, Gary. I don't know.
What? I don't know why would you do that? I just don't understand the logic. Why would you do that?
So he could bring it back to reconsider.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry. I'm the dense one. I don't think that way. I'm not political enough.
What I want to do, change my vote.
I don't have an answer for you off the top of my head. Why don't we just accept the fact that you've argued that you want to change your vote and you want to change it to aye, and we'll deal with that during this week, and we have some time to think about it. And then by next week, we'll be in a better position. Does that sound fair?
It's
okay.
I guess we found out whose pay grade that goes to. Thank you.
I remember reading it in our rules at one point, and
Yeah, I'll just have to study it because I don't.
yeah, I can't remember all the conditions that that can happen, but I know it can happen under certain circumstances, and I just don't know what those circumstances are. So, but yeah, that's my intent at this point, is to change my vote.
Can I just ask, just for clarification? Sorry, Marcia. If you do change your vote, then that gives it a 4-2. Does that matter at all?
Still doesn't pass.
Okay.
Still doesn't pass. Right?
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Thank you for that clarification.
So sorry, I didn't get that. Why it doesn't pass if it's 4-2?
Because it's 4-2 against.
Oh, gotcha. Yes. Okay, I see. So I have a quick question, Chair. Hi, Chair
Yes.
Blair.
Uh-huh.
I'm curious why these didn't go back to the Diversity Commission.
It didn't go back to the Planning Commission either.
Yeah.
That's just not the practice.
So typically, all of these advisory committees that it might be sent to are given one shot, and then the council gets to decide whether they want to take the recommendation, change the recommendation, amend it, or do whatever they want. And so it almost never goes back to the Planning Commission, as Rich mentioned, and it wouldn't be consistent with past policy to send it back to the Diversity Commission.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Are we okay to just, I guess, move on and discuss this more next week? Or does anyone want to have more discussion tonight?
So, Chair, I just have a follow-up question, because I don't know that I'm understanding really clearly. So we got the recommendation, but then there was a major modification made to the original recommendation. And so in that case, when that happens, we don't send proposals back to get reevaluated. My memory tells me that we do that with the Planning Commission. My memory tells me that we have done that with projects where we've done a little bit back and forth. If I am completely off and wrong, that's fine. I'll take it, but I just want a little more clarification.
I can't tell you that it's never happened. I can tell you that it would be very rare.
Glenn, can you think of any time that we've sent something back to the Planning Commission?
No, not in the time that I've been here. We've talked about it, but we've never actually sent anything back.
Okay, I appreciate for the clarification then. Thank you so much.
And then, if I might, Chair Blair, just for Councilmember Lopez's sake, as you recall, Councilmember Chaburka has an initiative that's in the works for an ordinance amendments to the street naming, honorary street name ordinance, which Glenn has been working on. And that might have some clarifications about process, but right now this is was a new process that we've never done before in terms of street naming. And so I guess my point is that there's some additional opportunity for discussion about process in the future.
Thank you so much, Janine. I appreciate that.
We did get some written comments from Diversity Commission members. in addition to the ones that were at public comment tonight.
Chair, I'd just like, can I make comment about my negative response? And I just wanted to again thank Anna and Darren so much for working together on this, and the neighbors that are really invested in that area. I'm excited to come and visit and see the garden and see the top.
Thank you.
I have one other quick question. If we do reconsider it, is it still public input? Is it still a public hearing, or do we just reconsider our vote?
Well, the public hearing has been closed, but if you wanted to take additional public comment, that would be up to the council.
I see. Okay.
That's assuming that it gets reconsidered, so.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments before we move on to public comment? Don't see any. Okay, then we will go ahead and move on to public comments. This is an opportunity to address the council regarding concerns or ideas on any topic. Questions posed during public comment will be noted and answered at the end of all public comments. If the council has the questions to the comments, the council will respond to those questions. For questions that relate to administrative matters, the mayor may choose to respond to those during his public comment period. I don't see anyone new on there, so I think everyone understands how to take part in the public comment, so we'll go ahead and just move forward. It looks like Heath Sato has his hand raised. I'm just waiting to see. There we go. Okay, Heath Sato, go ahead. The time is now yours.
Hi, Heath Sato, Ogden resident. Hope you're all doing well tonight. I'm honestly really disappointed that one council person has suggested he wants to game the voting system like this, and find that frankly outrageous. But anyways, moving on to what I wanted to talk about. I genuinely appreciate a couple of council members last week addressing my questions as best they could. And as a quick recap, I've essentially been told that members of the council have tried to get answers to my questions from the administration and have had no luck getting these answers. It was confirmed by Council Member Heyer last week that everyone has received these questions in their email. Council Member Lopez confirmed last week that he has not been given answers to these questions and recommended that I try to talk to the administration to get those answers. And I would like to thank Councilmember Lopez for that advice. But the fact is that I've asked these questions of the administration via email. I've asked during council meetings since February. I have even filled out the online request for a meeting with the mayor, but he refuses to respond to any of these methods via which I have reached out about these concerns. Short of showing up at a groundbreaking ceremony and yelling these questions at him, I'm not sure what it'll take to get him to respond in any meaningful way. I'm left with the sense that somewhere along the way, it was learned that hard questions are best left ignored, and if ignored, they'll just go away. I'm not interested in allowing the administration to be held completely unaccountable, though. So I have to ask again, what is the big secret? Why will the administration not even acknowledge that these questions have been asked? Why do they refuse to answer these questions even when council members have been inquiring? What is the secret? Here again are the questions nobody in the administration will answer. How did an experienced broker supposedly representing the city undervalue the Brown ice cream building by over half? Was this broker actually secretly working on behalf of the developer that is getting this building for a fraction of its actual value at a significant loss to future investment by the RDA? Does the administration even care? Number two, the RDA was told the broker had marketed the building in the usual ways. It appears that if the broker told the city this, they were lying to the city because there's no evidence the building was marketed at all by the broker. Again, this makes it look like the broker was secretly working for the developer, not the city. By not answering these questions, it appears the city's fine with us believing the broker ripped off the city of Ogden, and it doesn't even care. I'm begging the council in your capacity as the RDA to not allow that deal to move forward until the administration is willing to publicly answer those concerns. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Heath. Next up, we have Sebastian Benitez. Go ahead, Sebastian. The time is yours.
Okay, do you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, in the beginning, I was confused. I apologize for my confusion. I want to thanks to the mayor. My request about the city park, we are donating trees to reforestation, every single 43 park, and it's around 500 trees. And that will become and from the advice from the city in this fall, in this coming fall, and coordinating with the arborist, The other thing is, I want to thank too, because we have the project almost done on the sidewalk to make sure our children walk on the sidewalk, not on the street, to the school, and I am really happy for that. I really appreciate when our request is responding. Doesn't matter now, it's around 3 or 5 years already. And I want to thank to everyone involved in this project. And the sidewalk looks nice. The project is going, it's a mess everywhere, but we don't care. The neighbors don't care. The only thing is, because the next year, when the school starts, everyone can walk on the sidewalk, and the children, I want to really appreciate to hear our community, our neighborhood around my house, That is the thing I want to thank tonight. Thank you guys for making this dream go forward.
Thank you, Sebastian. Okay, next up we have Angel Castillo. Go ahead, Angel, the time is yours.
Good evening, Angel Castillo, Ogden residents. I'd like to thank the council for all the work that you're doing, because I know going into budget session, there's a lot of things to consume. And I know that it's a part-time job, but yet going into the budget, that's a full-time commitment. So, persevere on. I attended the Weber County Prosperity Center of Excellence meeting yesterday with Senator Anderegg and Representative Waldrop, and I would like to commend Councilmember White and Councilmember Heyer for being there to listen to this very important conversation about housing, affordable housing, what it looks like, and what our whole state is going through, and what's happening in Weber County. And I've forwarded everybody an email that I originally sent you on January 23rd, 2019, that talked about all of the things that Senator Anderegg and Representative Waldrop talked about during that meeting. I'd highly encourage you to have a listen to that meeting, because I know it was recorded. I'm sure if you reach out to Melissa Freegang, she can make sure you have a link to that. But there's some really startling information that Senator Anderegg brought up, which is, right now, snapshot of what's happening, and they're making all sorts of decisions about bills and policies with good data from Kem C. Gardner. And there's new information in, and just to bring it home, in 2019, when I originally sent you this email asking you to look at inclusionary zoning and other ways to help ease the pain point of affordable housing, a one bedroom in Ogden was going for $819, and a 2-bedroom was going for $926. And Senator Anderegg's data is right now a 1-bedroom is $1,200, and a 2-bedroom is $1,400 or $1,500, and that's just not attainable for many folks. And this is relevant going into the budgetary session. And I brought this up previously of, well, Ogden has done some amazing things with owner in Ogden and building affordable housing. We can't keep replicating that model. You're going to build 5 more homes this year that are going to sell for $400,000. And we really need to rethink that model and figure out how you can build smaller units, which leans into zoning changes so that people can get on that path to financial independence by home ownership. And smaller homes cost less. It takes 600 square feet for a bank to finance. That's the minimum. So I encourage you to listen to that meeting and start thinking about that as you go into budget session, because you're in a position to really change the direction of where we're going to create a plan for kids and grandkids that they can stay here and that they don't have to move out. Thank you.
Thank you, Angel. Okay, the next hand raised is for Jace Reneveld. Go ahead, Jace. The time is yours.
Hi, thank you. It's Jace again. Yeah, I just wanted to say how great it was to go to the farmers market on Saturday. It was beautiful to see all of the Ogdenites out there enjoying the weather and the small businesses and the opportunity just to interact again as a community. And I did want to take a moment to recognize the kind of tragedy it was that we didn't have the Ogden Marathon this year, and it was just virtual. And I know those folks at the Get Out and Live Foundation did what they could with virtual. And I had expressed to this council a couple of months ago my concerns with shutting down an event like that that has brought so much joy to people. And so I just really wanted to take a moment to recognize the fact that if we had gone in with a little bit more optimism to the marathon rather than pessimism, we could have had the marathon. That would only been like a week or so different from the farmers market, and it was just great to be outside with everybody, and nobody seemed to be worried about masks or anything like that, and especially with everything going on with the CDC and all the mandates kind of being backed off, and we kind of had hoped for this, right, that things would be normalizing at this time. And so just wanted to recognize kind of just a feeling of loss there, but looking forward to next year for sure. And then also just had a question for the council about when we'll be returning to in-person meetings. And I apologize if I've missed an announcement or something, but just curious as to why we're still doing this virtually when these meetings are great opportunities for the community to come together and see people that we agree with or disagree with and engage with our elected officials. Would love to see these things back in person sometime soon as a again, just a normal citizen of Ogden. But again, great to see everybody at the farmers market. Looking forward to next week and many great events this summer. So that's the entirety of my comments. Thanks.
Thank you, Jace. Okay. Seeing no other hands raised, we'll go ahead and move on to comments from the mayor or administration.
Nothing tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments from council members.
Chair, I'm kind of offended that I was called out for gaming of the rules. Taking advantage of rules to make sure that council members can have a vote is not gaming the rules. When you have a 3-3 tie, that's why we have 7 council members. We were missing one tonight, and to just eliminate him from the ability to vote would be wrong in my opinion. I don't know how he's going to vote. He could vote any way he wanted to. But I think it's important that, Janine made it clear that it needs to be a motion to reconsider, and without doing that, there wouldn't have been an ability to do that I know of.
Thank you. Any other council comments?
Yeah, I wanted to follow up real quick. One of the things that Jace just said is that, I too am disappointed that the marathon didn't happen. As someone who volunteers to help, run it and do those things, it takes months in planning. And so they started in, December, January, trying to plan it. And so we were in the thick of COVID at that point and didn't know what was going to happen at that point. So we're all disappointed that couldn't have happened, but we're on our way to good things. And so I agree that the farmers market's going to be a great thing. It looks like Twilight's going to be a great thing. We're getting back to our events, but that marathon just doesn't, I'm not doing it this year. So I just didn't want everybody to think that it can turn on a dime really quickly to get it going. So a lot of planning goes into that.
Thank you. I was going to actually address just a little bit of that, and I'm not 100% positive, but I remember in years past, it seemed like we were getting a lot of rain on Marathon Day, and they actually looked at moving it back 1 week or 2 weeks just to kind of eliminate that possibility. And I'm not sure if you all know this, but there's quite a community of marathoners, and they schedule those marathons all over the state. And when Ogden looked to reschedule their marathon, they just ran into so many complications with other major marathons all over the state. And in an attempt to keep that day for us, they've constantly said we're going to keep this date, and it's worked out very well. That's why I think our marathon is very successful. So I know I understand COVID played a major role, but also Ogden City or the Ogden Marathon has tried to keep it on a certain day for that reason, so people can schedule it, so people can plan for that. And that was another issue with that. I will say I did the virtual half. I tried to find as many level or downhill roads as I could find. And I couldn't believe how many people I saw out in their marathon jackets running with their bib on. And it wasn't the same, but it was still neat to see all those people that still wanted to participate and still wanted to do it. So I admit I was heartbroken that it didn't happen at its full capacity, but I do believe that the Goal Foundation did everything they could to make it a success based on the circumstances that we were in. So, and one other question or one other comment for Jace, we will start back live meetings next week. We will be there next Tuesday. So you haven't missed a memo or you haven't missed an email. We just decided last week that we'll start the first week in June. So that, yes, we'll be back in the chambers the first Tuesday in June.
Chair?
Yes.
I'd just like to follow up with what Chase said about the farmers market. It seems like we're getting back to some part of the normal capacity, and it's nice to see farmers market coming and starting up. One caution is that you better plan for your parking because of the construction down in the city at the present time. The other thing is, I hope this is not a discouraging aspect for Anna. I'm sure it probably is because of the work she has done with the street and that. But I hope that she continues to move forward and maybe we can get this taken care of and find a solution to it. But I applaud her, and I hope it's not a discouraging aspect. It's a setback for her, I'm sure. But I thank her for her efforts in establishing the process by which she went through. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no other comments,
Mr. Chair, could I make one comment? We've done a little bit of background research on this issue of reconsideration. And do you mind if I just kind of tell you where it is now? So we don't have to wait a minute?
I'm just going to turn it over to you. So yes.
Great. So so it turns out that a couple of years ago, we changed the reconsideration rules, and we made it so when there's a tie vote, either side could vote to reconsider. So the tie vote no longer becomes an issue in this particular case. On the issue of tie votes in general, though, so that handles the motion for reconsideration. On the issue of changing a vote, the last rule change I saw basically says that any person can change a vote before the chair has called an end to the voting. And so, perhaps Councilmember Heyer would not have met that requirement. But nevertheless, he has the right, anybody has the right to move to reconsider in the next 2 weeks.
Great, thanks for that.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to move to reconsider if possible.
That would happen at the any one of the next 2 weeks meetings.
Gary, would it be on the agenda so people would know it's getting reconsidered, or?
It certainly can be. It's not required to be because any person can make the motion. But if a member is going to make the motion, then it probably makes sense to put it on the agenda.
Chair, may I comment?
Yeah, please.
So the way I would see it happening is we can put the motion to reconsider, and then if that passes, then it would go on a later agenda for reconsideration. So it would not be on the same agenda as the motion to reconsider.
And that's what I was assuming also. Thank you. But thank you, Janine and Gary, for looking into that and getting us the answers on that.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. I know I'd read it. I just couldn't remember the circumstances. And I appreciate you looking that up before the meeting ended today.
I had help from others. Thanks.
Okay. Any other comments? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion to adjourn by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Councilmember Chaburka. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
I think that was everyone. Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
See you next week in person.
We still have one more item.
Done.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. I'm leaving now.
We're going back to the work session.
I'm not leaving. I'm staying here.
It's because you were late, Angela. We just waited for you.
Yeah, I know. I apologize.
I'm just kidding. Does anyone need a 5-minute break?
How long do we expect this is going to go on? This doesn't look like a long one.
Maybe 10 minutes max. I don't know, Dustin.
It shouldn't take very long.
Okay.
Chair Blair, we're good to go.
Okay. Sounds good. So, good evening, and we're just reconvening the 4 p.m. work session. And we're scheduled to hear from Justin Sorensen on the Schedule A, proposed amendments to fiscal year 2022 tentative budget.
Thank you, Chair Blair. Let me go ahead and share my screen with you. And just as a reminder, well, before I share my screen, as the mayor presents the tentative budget for for council to consider. Between that time and the time of adopting a tentative budget, there may be items that we find in the budget that were an error, or some other items come to light that we need to include in the budget. And so this schedule the Schedule A is a proposal for some adjustments to the tentative budget, which is scheduled for a public hearing next Tuesday on the 1st. And so this is just to share that information to be considered with that proposal next week. So let me go ahead and share my screen and we can go ahead and look at that. So let's see. All right, is everybody able to see my screen?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. So these are the items that are being proposed, adjustments being made to accounts within the budget. And just to go through those, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer those. A couple of them are just accounting for moving into a different account. That first one, our Prop 1, our active transportation funds, we are fully putting those into the CIP fund next year. And so this is just an accounting adjustment to change where this asphalt and oil is being paid from. It'd be from our B&C road funds instead. And so that's just moving it accounts. It's within two different expense accounts. The next one is Weber County is providing funds to help with a rescue team differential. And this was Chief Matthew provided this information to us. And what that is the city's going to be receiving $23,000. And what that money is to go towards is to help with some stipends for those that are helping on those rescue teams, as well as some funds to help with the maintenance of the equipment that they'll be using. So that is an adjustment within fires accounts in the general fund. So the total adjustment to the general fund is a net increase of $23,200, taking it to $67,539,175. In the CIP fund, we had one adjustment there. One of the projects that we have is for 20th Street in Lincoln for the signal there. And after we had put the budget in, we had already appropriated or proposed appropriating $186,000 for this from WACOG, but there was an additional $14,000 that we're also receiving from WACOG for this project for design. And so we're proposing that be also added to EN06 to the streets CIP. So that's an increase of $14,000 to the CIP fund. In the sanitary sewer fund, we realized after we had done an increase for the Central Weaver Sewer District charge, but in reviewing, we realized that that increase was slightly larger. And so we're proposing to adjust down the return to retained earnings and increase that expense line for the district charges. So the net change in the sanitary sewer fund is zero, as it's just changing where that budget is. In the airport fund, there's a proposal to decrease that budget by $2.1 million. And what that is, and this was discussed in council meeting last week, and the public hearing was set for next Tuesday as well, is to fund this. This is part of the FAA money and the city match to go into that project that they're wanting to fund early. And so with the budget opening that's being considered next week, this is removing the budget out of fiscal year 22 since it would be appropriated earlier. So that is what that amount is. So that is a reduction to the airport fund of $2.1 million next year. In the BDO infrastructure fund, since we're taking out the city match out of the airport fund, we also need to reduce down the transfer out of the BDO and reduce the use of retained earnings by that $200,000 as well. And this is also being included in the fiscal year 21 budget amendment, increasing that. So again, this is just moving it forward or bringing it forward into 21 versus being in the 22 budget. So that lowers that budget by $200,000. And then the last one is in our major grants fund. After we submitted the budget, it was brought to our attention that HUD actually awarded us a slightly higher amount And from what Kathy Fuentes explained to us, it didn't require, it wasn't a major change to the AAP program. And so this is just a friendly amendment to the budget to increase for those additional funds, those additional CDBG entitlement funds from that award in the amount of $14,900. And you can see there how we're distributing that between both admin and the Quality Neighborhoods program. So that is a net increase of $14,900,000 to our major grants. And then you can see the total change in the Schedule A is a reduction to the total city budget of $2.2 million, bringing it from $217,397,700 down to $215,194,800, and it brings the net budget of the city, including the RDA and the MBA and strike force, to $226,092,275. So are there any questions about any of those adjustments in the Schedule A?
Thank you, Justin, and thanks for sticking around. Any questions for Justin?
And so, Chair, if I might, so you are scheduled on June 1st to adopt the tentative budget, and this will be attached to that tentative budget as changes to the tentative budget.
Okay.
And I just want to apologize. I know when I made the presentation, a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago, I guess, on the tentative budget, I guess it was last week, I didn't know we were going to have a Schedule A because I hadn't seen one yet, but they just had given them to me that afternoon. It was in my inbox when I made your presentation. So that's why I didn't reference it in my presentation.
Okay. Thank you. Now I think we're finished, unless there's any council business. I don't see any.
Just an RSVP on the fire banquet if you want to participate in that.
Okay.
Janine,
When is that? When is that again?
It is June 9th.
I think Rich and I are going to attend in person next week in our council meeting. Is that right, Rich?
I will. I'm all set to go pick you up.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, and is everybody going to be here? Because we need to know for lunches or dinners.
I'll be there.
Okay, sounds like everybody's going to be here. That's great.
Yep. Be good to see you all again.
Yeah.
When quick question, do we know when we can get rid of plexiglasses in our seats?
Wow.
Well, so it's up to you, whatever you feel comfortable with. My thought was that we would leave them there through June and then in July take them down if everybody's still feeling okay, but it's really up to you. That's your decision as a council.
Since I sit next to you, are you vaccinated?
You don't know where
Well, I tell you what, I will be fully vaccinated soon. And I know that this is kind of, obviously it's kind of I guess for some people could be considered a private issue. I don't have a problem sharing. But if it will make a difference that we take the plexiglass down, if people are vaccinated and they feel more comfortable, maybe we should discuss that, because, for me, that's just, it's kind of a sticky issue for me, honestly. I haven't seen the dais and the chambers. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know how am I going to feel sitting there in between plexiglass. And, so I don't know if anybody else feels the same way, or if they have any feelings about it. but by June, what was the date when that would be? June 6th?
June 1st is our first meeting in the chambers.
Okay, June 1st. Okay.
So that's just next week.
Yeah. Anyway,
I think it would be best to, at least go and see what it's like, and then we can discuss it after we've experienced it.
We paid for it. Might as well use it once.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I like that, Bart, especially since, again, I have my second shot. I'm scheduled for my second shot on the 4th. So I guess if that makes Marsha feel better, maybe on our second in-person meeting, maybe I can, maybe she will be more comfortable if we take the plexiglass down. But I like your suggestion, Bart. Let's see how it feels, and then we can talk about it more.
She might want to change her seat.
I think we should get those bubbles like some people have done concerts in.
Yeah.
It's like a giant air bubble. They're going to sell on those. I want to do that.
Yeah.
We don't.
Well, let's be careful. Let's be careful, Angela, because now we're edging closer to gas masks and that kind of stuff that was displayed at the federal level, and that would be very unfortunate. No, I like your suggestion, Bart.
Yeah.
I like that. I think we come and we get a feel for it, and then we can address it again. I like that. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
And Luis, I'm giving you a hard time more than anything. I'm vaccinated. Doesn't matter.
Well, I appreciate that. You know what? I know that 95% of the time you're giving me a hard time, so no problem.
Yeah.
If she can survive Cuba, she can survive council meetings.
Exactly. I can sit sitting next to you.
Yep.
That's right. That's right. Thank you.
I don't even remember where I sit.
Yeah. Send us the address one more time, Janine, by next Tuesday.
Sorry, what? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, make sure you send us all the address.
If you haven't been down here, I should tell you that you have to come in from 27th onto Kiesel. You can't, that's the only way to get into the parking lot. So you'll have to go over to 27th, turn on Kiesel, and then make your way onto the rubble and then into the parking lot.
That's good to know.
Actually, Bart and I will have different seats.
Yeah.
Marsha, we all will have different seats.
Oh, yeah.
I was thought about that. I was like, oh, I didn't get the chair seat anymore. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
I can sit next
You
to
don't even know where you sit.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know if I still have a chair up there.
I can sit next to you, Marsha. I'm vaccinated, so.
Okay, perfect. Blank me. That's good. Both sides. Oh, I totally forgot. That's funny. Jeez. It's been so long.
I know.
So I'm sorry, but we're on the topic. So did we ever discuss if we had the opportunity to do? I think we did. I think we said if there is some kind of a hybrid where for work sessions we might be able to do remote. We could still remote into the future. Have we had that conversation? Do we know kind of where we stand on that?
So technically, through it, technology-wise, we can still do that. I mean, yeah, so I guess it's up to you to set what your expectations are.
All right. So I would say maybe when we get a chance, if it's next week or sometime, I just like to bring that up and see what other people think. I just feel like, it might be good to debrief the pros and cons of the pandemic. But one of the pros to me is that we learned that we can be effective working remotely and maybe if there is a chance for some type of flexibility, some people might welcome that. But I don't think tonight is the time to talk about it, because I know we are anxious to go and have dinner and go on with the date. So I'm okay to maybe bring it back again next time. Thank you so much.
Okay. I think that's everything.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. See you all next week. Have a good holiday.
Yay.
Thank you all. Take care.
See you later.